Most days, my work is about checking spots, treating skin cancers, and giving reassurances when the news is good. Recently, I was seeing a man in his 80s whom I've looked after for years. That day, the news was good. No suspicious lesions, no new cancers. I expected relief, maybe even a smile. But instead, he paused. He looked at me and said quietly, "My biggest problem is loneliness. Not the skin cancer that had marked his life, not the treatments. Loneliness." 18 months earlier, his wife, his companion of nearly 60 years, had died after a 2-year battle with cancer. He had been a full-time carer right up to the end. They almost made it to their diamond wedding anniversary. And now, even after trying new activities, even after attending church, the ache remained. So I'd sit with you today as I sat with my patient just just here that morning and talk about this, about loneliness, about the pyramid of friendships, and about how we might begin to heal. And let me say this early: loneliness is not the same as solitude. Solitude chosen can be rich and tranquil, a deep well of reflection. And let me say this early: loneliness is not the same as solitude. Solitude chosen can be rich and tranquil, a deep well of reflection. Loneliness is imposed and unwanted, and it drains the spirit. Solitude is something I will speak about another time, but today this is about loneliness. Years ago, I wrote something called the Friendship Pyramid, and listening to my patient, I realized how clearly it explained what so many of us face in later life. There are 6 levels: bust, must, trust, just, rust, and dust. At the very top is the bust, a bosom friend. For most of us, that's our spouse, that the one who shares our history, our inside jokes, our rhythm of life. When that person dies, the peak of that pyramid collapses. That's why grief runs so deep. It's the collapse of the structure that held your life together. Below that are the must friends, rare, precious, the people that you can ring at 3 a.m. in the morning, the ones who show up even when it's not convenient. If you have even one or two, you are blessed. Then come the trust friends. They may not be there in every crisis, but they walk beside you steadily. They are the ones that keep your confidence. They remember your stories. They give weight and meaning to ordinary days. Next are the just friends. And this is where so many, especially men, get stuck. Workmates, golf buddies, church friends, warm and pleasant in that setting, but outside the bubble, nothing deeper. A smile on Sunday morning does not become a lifeline on Tuesday night. Lower still are the rust friends, acquaintances who drift in and out, often popping up when it suits them. And finally, the dust people, the users, the ones who drain more than they give. The trap of just friends. This is what my patient was discovering. He was trying, he was showing up, but the activities alone weren't enough. Because activities create just friends, and just friends can fill an hour or two, but they cannot carry your grief. In the same pattern it is with workmates. For decades, you share jokes, deadlines, routines. Then you retire. The phone stops ringing. The friendship fades because it was tied to the workplace bubble. And in church, the same risk. You share warmth on Sunday, but if it never moves beyond into meals and shared struggles or prayer outside those walls, it remains surface. Many in churches are still deeply lonely. What's missing is not more activity. What's missing is communion, the emotional, personal, and spiritual bonds that turn just friends into trust friends, and sometimes into must friends. So, how do we rebuild, especially after losing a bosom friend? First, honor the loss. You cannot replace 60 years of marriage. That grief deserves respect. But then, look at the rest of your pyramid. If you have must friends, lean on them. If you don't, begin with the trust level. It takes stepping beyond the bubble. Over time, you can improve. Sharing a meal outside the church hall, inviting a neighbor for tea, letting yourself be vulnerable enough to talk about your real fears. And yes, say yes to a coffee after choir, not just the singing. Over time, just friends can become trust friends. And sometimes, if life allows, a trust friend may grow into a must friend, the person who will turn up when you really need them. I've seen it happen. Widows forming bonds with one another, holding together each other in the hardest moments. Neighbors becoming family, a bridge partner become a confidant. This is the quiet work of rebuilding a pyramid after loss. Not filling the top again, because you cannot, but strengthening the base so you do not collapse. So if you're lonely right now, grieving, adjusting to retirement, or simply drifting, I want you to hear this. You are not invisible. You are not finished. The love you've known, the communion you've shared, they are still within you, and they can flow again into new connections, slowly, step by step. It doesn't take many. In fact, in older age, fewer but deeper friendships may matter most. Less noise, more meaning. It doesn't have to start big. One call, one walk, one meal, one shared silence. That is enough. When I listened to my patient, I also thought of my own wife. She has been my bosom friend for more than 30 years. His story made me appreciate my wife even more deeply and reminded me never to take for granted the gift of having that top of the pyramid still intact. If you'd like to reflect further, I've written a full piece about the friendship pyramid. It lays out each level in more detail, and it may help you see where friendships lie and where to begin rebuilding. Another time, I will speak about the richness of solitude, because solitude is not the same as loneliness, and it can be deeply sustaining. And I'll also share strategies on making and deepening friendships in later life, fewer but richer, more nourishing. But for today, hold on to this. Even in the silence, you still matter, and your pyramid of friendships can still be rebuilt.